Hello everybody and welcome to the imbalance part of the course. In today's section we're going to be going over what is imbalance and examples of imbalance. So let's begin now. What's an imbalance? Imbalance is the very rapid movement of price where there is an excess amount of orders being placed at a very high magnitude, right? So loads of orders are being placed very rapidly, causing an excess amount of orders to be placed, and this causes a large candle to be formed, right? And this candle must eventually be filled, right? And just a small side note, when the large excess amount of orders are, executed, right? Normal retail traders aren't able to execute their own trades, right? So when usually during an imbalance, right, the creation of it, loads of retail traders aren't able to get their own positions in, so price has to come back and fill out those orders, right? And that's what I mean by this candle must eventually be filled. So let's move on to some examples of an imbalance, right? So if I go on to this chart on GBP JPY, right, and I show you what an imbalance looks like. So an imbalance usually takes the form of a very large candle, so like this, for example, right? And if I go onto the higher time frame and I show you this, so one thing you need to keep in mind with imbalances are they are relative to their time frame, right? Usually the rapid buying is within one area. So for example, it will just be this area over here on this time frame. So these two candles right here, right? It will be these two candles on this 8-hour time frame. However, you need to keep in mind is that this will look different on the 4-hour, as we know, because one 8-hour candle represents two 4-hour candles, right? So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 candles, right? Because we're on the 4-hour time frame. Now, this whole area over here, which I've just selected, is our imbalance area, right? Where the rapid buying started and finished, right? However, to select an imbalance zone, as I like to call it, we've got to draw our imbalance zone from wick to wick, right? So if I just number all of these candles, right? So we've got candle number 1, then we've got candle number 2. Okay, wait. Let me just write it with the text because it's not working. So candle number 1, and then we have candle number 2, and then we've got candle number 3, right? So the way we draw out our imbalances is by drawing the top wick. So this is for a bullish imbalance, right? So we draw it from the top wick of the first candle to the bottom wick of the third candle, right? So it would look somewhat like this. And if I just move this to the top side here, so that is what our imbalance zone should look like. And this is the area in which we think price will fill out eventually, right? We know price has to eventually fill out this imbalance, right? So if I just play price candle by candle, what do we see? Price has to come back into our zone and fill out that imbalance, right? And what we can do is, with this imbalance as well, we can draw our, our levels, right? So we can know exactly when the 0.5 is, so the 1 is being filled, when the 0.5 is being filled, and when the whole thing is being filled, right? So right now the 1 has been filled out, right? And then eventually we have the 0.5, and then obviously we have the 0 as well. So now this imbalance has been filled. So we can just disregard it, right? It's been filled, so now we don't need to worry about marking it up. So that's how you mark up a buy imbalance, right? So a bullish imbalance. And yeah, that's what they look like. So now let's move on to a sell example, right? So if we just move on to this example, right, and I take those same numbers from over here, and we drag them onto over here, right? So it's the same idea in terms of the first, second, and third candle. It's just that marking up is just a little bit different, right? So so there's multiple examples I can show here. So we'll just begin with this one. So we've got our first candle, we've got our second candle here, and we've got our third candle, right? And so what do? We get for a sell example, or like a bearish example, right? Bearish candle, we get the bottom wick of the first candle. We go through the body of the second candle, and we meet with the top wick of the third candle, right? And that is your imbalance zone, right? And this is the zone that we expect to be filled out eventually, right? And then we can mark on our Fibonacci, right? So there we go, right? We've got our imbalance zone marked out, right? Remember, the whole imbalance area is this area altogether over here, right, where the rapid selling was, right, shown by this very large candle. However, our zone can be seen on this time frame really nicely. You can break this up into smaller zones. However, I wouldn't find it very useful. Like I said, in the next episode, we're going to be going how you would use this to your advantage. But for now, just use the time frame which it looks cleanest on, right? We can clearly see there is a imbalance zone where it's all body, right, wick to wick, very nice, right? Yeah, that's just one thing I forgot to mention, right? Your imbalance zone has to be pure, the pure body of the candle, right? It can be the body of one candle, right? So what we've done here, in this zone, all we have is the body of the second candle, right? And that's what your imbalance zone should look like. So let's do the same thing again on this example over here, right? So now you guys should be able to do this yourselves, right? So if you want to, you could pause the video and do it yourself, right? So what do we have here? We've got from the top wick, right, of the first candle to the bottom wick of the third candle, right? And then we've got our buy imbalance zone, right? We've got this imbalance zone right here. Oh yeah, and we'll look at how that one was filled out as well, right? So now we can see this one has been filled out 0.5 here. We saw a bit of reaction, which I'm going to get into the next episode, right? And then we got filled out on the 0 as well, right? We've been filled out. This imbalance is filled out. So what can we do now? We can just disregard it, right? We don't need to worry about it. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Now we don't need to worry about this imbalance, right? And now we can just go over this one, right? There we go. The 1 has been filled. Now the 0.5 is being filled, right? And now the 0 has been filled, right? So that's all there is to imbalance. I'll show one more sell example really quickly. Right? So we could have an example like this, where they're not all selling candles, right? But it is still wick to wick, right? So we have this wick to wick zone over here, right? Which is then filled out by the 1, and then eventually filled out completely, right? Yeah, that's all there is to marking out an imbalance and examples of imbalance and how they are filled, right? They're always filled first with the 1, 0.5, and then the 0. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next part where we're going to talk about how you can utilize imbalance and use it to your advantage. So see you in the next one.